Many LGBTQ plus people face economic cliff if eviction protections end. Jay Williams came home to an eviction notice last week. The single page stuck to the door of the Las Vegas condo they have called home for 7 years stated that Williams and their wife have 30 days to vacate. Williams said, quote, "I don't sleep very well anymore. We owe a ton of rent and might get kicked out of our house, and I have no way of fixing the situation because it is entirely out of my control," end quote. Williams, who is a non-binary transgender person and whose name has been changed because they are not out of work now, owes their landlord more than $10,000 in back rent. The federal eviction moratorium has up to now helped more than 7.4 million Americans behind on rent, but the moratorium never completely stopped evictions and was only a stopgap measure that didn't address the economic issues brought on by COVID-19. Prior to the pandemic, almost about 22%, of all LGBTQ plus adults were living in poverty, compared to 16% of cisgender straight adults, according to a 2019 study. Evictions, then, could be a next wave for LGBTQ plus people, experts said, that could hit the community hard and long term.
We were at that Trans Collaborative over the weekend, and one of the things that they were talking about were all the shelters, how a lot of the shelters are more full to capacity these days, you know, and it's going to be a lot more with things like this happening, you know. I know a gay couple that unfortunately is losing their home. They didn't read the fine print and they moved those payments to the bottom, and now they owe, like, you know, an astronomical amount of money that they don't have to give, you know, and that's going to be very common in our community.
It's terrifying.
Landlords have proven to be the real villains of this pandemic.
But they have to pay bills too, Poppy.
Well,
right,
that's
they have to pay taxes and right.
Yeah, that's true, but they could also do more like the cases like this one, you know, to help them out. You know, it's we owe it to ourselves to, you know, because I was out of work for a while last year and I was worried too. You know, thank goodness Florida unemployment came through for me, but you know, unfortunately, not a lot of people were so lucky.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, and you can find a job, but how are you going to come up with 10 grand in back?
That's
a lot.
short.
Right.
And homelessness
Right.
has always been a kind of pandemic among LGBTQ folks, right? So, I mean, if we think about how this problem is being compounded and really kind of adding on to whether it's the pandemic of COVID-19, whether it's economic uncertainty, general anxiety, like, I mean, there's so many kind of things that are making the situation worse and worse. And,
you know, I think that is a bullseye, but on top of that, this is not a homelessness issue.
No.
The red light that is flashing here and warning is those that are in lower income and even middle income situations that have been forced financially or because of job loss or varieties of related reasons that are forced into a situation where their very ability to stay in a home, in a rental apartment, whatever it might be, is at stake. I hear you in terms of the observation about the landlords, but the real villain here, in my opinion, is our government, because it is not the responsibility and it was not caused by those that lost their job. It is not caused by the businesses that had to close, and it is not caused by the landlords. This is a bigger problem than any of those segments of our economy can face or deal with. And that's when government is important. Those people that advocate for smaller or reduced government, you can't do that in a pandemic crisis, which is what we have faced for nearly 2 years. We're coming up on a 2-year mark, and that's when governments help protect their people. And this issue is likely going to be a gigantic wave that we're going to report at Queer News Tonight significantly, because there is a large number of LGBT people that are going to be dramatically and significantly adversely affected by what's going to get ready to happen next, unfortunately. LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.